good morning, new students. How's everyone doing today? Awesome. Well, hello. Welcome to the second session of College Creighton. This is called Calls and Conversation. This is specifically about diversity and inclusion at Creighton, but it's less about specifically what that is, and more specific about what does it look like at Creighton, and how can you participate, and how can you better yourself and learn and expose yourself to new experiences. So we're going to be as exciting as we can be. I know this is a long day. I know it's rainy outside. I know some of y'all are tired, but we're going to do our best, okay? So I'm just going to ask for your full attention, because this is a good opportunity for you to prepare for the next 4 years here at Creighton. I'm going to challenge you to think about what we're saying and challenge you to actually question and actually think of questions and actually think about, okay, how can I utilize these tools that they're about to give me here in my next 4 years, okay? So, with that, I'd like to welcome up Desiree and Becky up to the stage.
Good morning again. Remember me, talked to you yesterday a few times. So welcome. I know that it is rainy and it's crappy and you're having to go off to all these presentations, but we really want you to kind of get a sense of who we are. Again, Desiree announced, I work in student life, and more specifically the Awesome Community Singers in Waukegan.
Good morning, I'm Becky Nickerson, and I also work in the Division of Student Life, but I'm the director of the Creighton Intercultural Center, which is our center right underneath Brandeis. So when you're eating lunch and you're eating breakfast, we're listening to you below. So come visit us. We're excited to start the year out.
So we're going to start off with just some ground rules. One of the things that we talked about yesterday was really about being a part of this community, and one of the things that we're really going to focus on today is your responsibility, but also really kind of educating yourself on respecting and promoting the dignity of all people. That is a Jesuit value, it's a charism, it's something that we hold true and dear, and so it's really important that some of the things that you're going to hear about today are tough to talk about. They're really hard to wrap your brain around them sometimes, and sometimes we don't want to talk about them. So we're going to talk about a few of those things. The other is that you, being a part of this community or coming here and choosing Creighton, you've accepted that one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to challenge you. We're going to challenge you to critically think about what you have already experienced in life, and we're going to challenge you by probably giving you some things that you haven't experienced or people you haven't met. And so one of the ways that we do this is today, and all the different things that you're talking about today, but wanting you to know that being a part of this community is awesome, but sometimes it's challenging, and so we're going to hopefully help you out with some tips and tricks today.
So we're going to talk about how do we build this campus community, because you are our newest Jays. Welcome. We're super excited. How many people have welcomed you since you've been here? Like hundreds, right? So, but I'm welcoming you again, so let me be 101. But we need to make sure that day one, we are starting to build this campus community that is who we want to be and who we're called to be as Blue Jays. So, how many of you like to take selfies? How many are in Snapchat? How many of you have already taken a picture of yourself, snapped it out while you've been sitting here in this room, honest? Not me, because I don't have Snapchat, and it's rainy, so I didn't really want that look. So, when you take selfies, are you zooming in? Raise your right hand if you're a person that zooms in to get everything good. I do. I crop every picture. I make sure I get the right side, make sure my hair looks good. How many of you left hand up? How many of you are ones that zoom out to get the whole big picture? How many of you are just lying and not participating? Because I saw like 5 people, and I know more than 5 are on Snapchat, because I stalked you all last night. Just kidding. I don't even have Snapchat. I told you that. That was my disclaimer. So, that's against building a campus community, is be stalkers, so don't do it. So, what I've learned from my daughter. So my daughter, she's a high school senior, so she will be sitting in a seat like this next year. But she talks about when we take these pictures, she wants me to zoom out, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in because I'm a person that really wants to get to know you for who you are. I want to dive deeper. I'm a social worker. I'm a counselor. It's all about what is the story behind who you are and let me see inside you. And then my daughter is a zoom out. She's like, I want you to see that my shoes match, what my outfit is, and I want you to see the lake behind me. And so she's a zoom out. And so when we build this campus community, we have to do both. We have to learn how to get to know people and beyond the surface level, but we also have to zoom out to make sure that we're looking at the big perspective and looking at what is behind the person that's in front of you. Number 2, we need to make sure we're balancing majority-minority votes. As we look around this room, is there anyone that looks exactly like you? Please say no. There's no identical twins in here because that would really, no, there's no one else exactly like you, right? So we need to make sure that everyone has a voice at the table. We need to make sure that 75% of us may agree on one thing, but the 25% that don't have an opinion, and it's very valid, and we need to find out why they have a different opinion and find out where we can meet in the middle. I'm not just saying we have to change our mind, but we have to listen to what's going on. Third rule of building a campus community that is inclusive is we need to examine our differences. No one is an expert on everyone else. You're only the expert of your own story. And my story is different than your story. And both of our stories are important, and I need to take time to learn your story because I did not come to Creighton. I was a student here. I didn't come to Creighton to stay the same person. How many of you listened to me talk this summer? Going out of your comfort zone. That was me. We did the whole put your tongue against the pole. Remember that? Okay, so we talked about going out of your comfort zone. We talked about getting to know someone different, and what is that different? That difference is what makes them beautiful. Number 4, in building our inclusive campus community, is understanding and acceptance versus tolerance and acknowledged. I personally tolerate my daughter when she starts talking to me when I'm watching Game of Thrones. But I accept her and love her, and that's when she feels much more validated in my home. It's when I accept and validate and understand who she is as a person and what she has to say is important, as opposed to just tolerating. So we're going to move beyond tolerating people, and we're going to start accepting and loving them for who they are. Fair? That's all it's going to take to build this campus community that's inclusive. Raise your hand. Can you do it? Okay, here we go. We are all about getting common language out there at Creighton University, so we have some fabulous students who are going to introduce themselves and give you some common terms so that you know how to have these conversations.
All right, my name is Priyanka Gupta and I'm a junior. The first word is stereotype. It's an oversimplified generalization about groups of people. It can be positive or negative, yet still not accurate. Making judgments about a certain group of individuals without actually knowing them is an example of a stereotype. Racial remarks, sexual remarks, gender remarks are the biggest stereotypes that occur. To give it a personal example, I often get the question of, oh, are you going to be getting an arranged marriage? No. But at this point, it might actually occur. No, but in all seriousness, just be careful what you're saying and make sure to always think before you speak.
Hey guys, my name is Timmy and I'm a senior. Bias. So bias is opinion formed without reasonable justification that limits a person's ability to make a fair judgment. A personal preference that can be a detriment to having an open mind. So I think we can all admit that we're biased on different issues. Like personally for me, I can use sports. I'm a Manchester United fan and also a Green Bay Packers fan, so I tend to find Packers fans cooler and also Manchester United fans as well. But the different forms of being biased, you can be like socioeconomically biased, racially biased. You can also be religiously biased, and I can actually use that as an example. So here at Creighton, we're a Jesuit Catholic institution, and although a lot of people could be Catholic or Christian, it doesn't mean everyone is a Catholic or a Christian. So an example of someone who's biased is like thinking, oh, because he's a Christian and the other person is an atheist, it means the person who's a Christian is has more values or is a better person, which I don't think is true. So going back to definition, it would be being biased in that situation is thinking that without reasonable justification, you limit your ability to make a fair judgment on that person.
All right, so the next word we're going to talk about is prejudice. So the next two words are very similar to each other, but there's key differences between them. So for prejudice, it's a preconceived opinion or attitude, a prejudgment based on beliefs without knowledge. And so what we really want to focus here is that this is the cognitive form of bias. This is a cognitive form of actions that you take against people that you otherwise maybe have, again, preconceived attitudes or opinions. So you may not do something about it. But it's the fact that inside you have an idea, an attitude, an opinion, or a concept about a certain group of people that you yourself don't, and it's usually in a negative form. So the next word is going to be discrimination.
I'm Nate Demica, and I'm a senior. With the next word, discrimination, it is the action of treating some people or groups of people better than others without fair or proper reason. So this is when you put your prejudices and biases to action, your thoughts and opinions to action, to treat certain people better than others. I know most of you guys have heard about the Starbucks incident in Philadelphia, when two black people were sitting down waiting for the friend to arrive, but then they were arrested and escorted out of Starbucks. And I know, like many of you all, I've sat at Starbucks for a while, getting my stuff ready, maybe doing some work or whatever without even ordering, but they were arrested based on color of skin, so they were discriminated against. Also in Colorado, about a year ago, a couple was trying to get a cake for their wedding, but the baker denied them service because they were a gay couple, and he was not going to bake a cake for a gay couple's wedding. So they were also discriminated against for them on their sexual orientation. So you can be discriminated against on a lot of levels, but what we want to be mindful of is that there are a lot of people with a lot of differences. We want to be able to accept all and be understanding of all people who live differently than us.
I want every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general treats our citizens, our black citizens. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the direction. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
And so, if we'll look back at that title, it says racism. I'm not racist, be anti-racist. Does anyone have an idea of what anti-racist might mean? Okay, so I'll share that. So there is a difference between not being racist and being anti-racist. We really want to point this out. So there's an idea of being who knows what a bystander is? Right? Yes, hopefully everyone learned what a bystander is. Someone who sits idly by, right? And if you're an active bystander, that means you take action against wrongdoings that are occurring. So being anti-racist is being an active bystander, doing something for those who are being victimized. And so that's the idea of being anti-racist. Not just being not racist, but having the ability and taking action against those wrongdoings. So next we're going to talk about diversity and inclusion.
Diversity is bringing people with different backgrounds together. Take, for example, a potluck. You can have a group of individuals from different cultures representing different dishes, and then they can touch on inclusion.
Yeah, so inclusion is an environment of being valued, respected, and supported. So going back with the potluck theme, if you see all the different dishes, unique dishes, there's representation in numbers, which represents diversity. But being able to make all those dishes work, put them all together to create a whole meal is how is an example of how inclusion works.
Hi, so I haven't spoke yet, but I'm Ayushi Call. I'm a junior here at Creighton University. And so marginalization, to put or keep someone or a group in a powerless or unimportant position within a society or group, a process of exclusion. So marginalized communities in our society and societies around the world are people in the LGBTQ community, refugees, immigrants, people facing homelessness, women, people of color. All of these people have been pushed to the outskirts of our society, and what we do here at Creighton is we take those people and we stand in solidarity with them. We take them and we love them. And here on campus, we don't marginalize anybody. We are not here for that. We are here to be men and women for and with others, and that's a big part of who we are. So we make sure that those who do feel marginalized know that they have a home and that they are accepted here.
So there's been this idea in our society about free speech versus hate speech, and it's somewhat somewhat of a gray area, so we're going to try to clear it up a little bit. So, free speech is the right to freedom of opinion and expression. Who has heard of the First Amendment? Right. We have a right to free speech, we have a right to religion, we have a right to petition, we have a right to press. So, the idea of a right to free speech is one of our most fundamental values that we hold here. However, with that fundamental value, you have the opportunity to decide what you say, and how you say it, and what you do about it. And here at Creighton, we have some standards, we have some values that in our community we hold about speech.
So hate speech, by definition, is speech that offends, threatens, or insults a diverse range of groups. So while, yeah, you legally have the right to say what you want to, hate speech is not condoned on this campus. 100% not okay. We don't walk around and insult people. Most of you guys are going to become friends. Creighton's just that kind of campus. You know everybody. You're not walking around throwing out racial slurs, offensive language, any of that. We don't condone it. That's just not who we are. And how are you going to be a man and woman for and with others when you're using language like that or threatening someone?
All right, so around over a year ago, there was an incident in Charlottesville, Virginia, when the white supremacist group in Charlottesville legally got the permit to protest, and then there was a counter-protest with members of the Black Lives Matter movement, and they legally got the right to protest, but then it got violent, and then there were fights, and there was a big incident of when a man who was part of the white supremacist group drove his car into like the counter-protesters, and sadly, a white lady who was in support of the Black Lives Matter movement passed away. And then there was another incident when two of the white supremacist members beat a 20-year-old black male. So in light of those incidences last year, Father Hendrickson released a statement saying the bigotry and hateful violence we have seen is counter to the judgment values that guide Creighton University and has no place in our society. We must continue to educate and form agents of change to bring about a more just community, nation, and world. So this is just reminding former, present, and future Blue Jays that in our society that it has no place.
All right, so this idea of privilege, the special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group of people. So privilege, you could be privileged to a lot of things, or have many privileges based on different facts or characteristics about you. And having privileges is something you don't choose necessarily. Like, for example, white privilege. It is not to say that as a white person you don't have any struggles or hardships growing up, but it's to say that as a white person you don't have to overcome the same barriers that a black person does from dealing with years of oppression, slavery, segregation, and so forth. You can look at a broader spectrum like education. All of us in the United States of America are very privileged to be able to access and have a means education that not all children and people have in this world. Not all people, not all kids are able to have textbooks, have the technology we do, have the resources, the teachers we do to receive an education, and for that we are very privileged. And when dealing with privilege or this idea of privilege, the main thing that I want you guys to take away is that just to be aware of the privilege that you have and to acknowledge them and to help others that aren't as privileged as you to reach your level.
Microaggressions. They're inadvertent discriminatory statements or acts conducted by people outside the marginalized group. So microaggressions can happen in very subtle ways, especially in everyday conversations. For example, my dad was having a conversation with one of his colleagues at work, and his colleague plainly stated, "Wow, your English is so good. How are you so good at speaking English? It's so articulated. You're very good at speaking English." Yeah, my dad has been learning English since first grade. He is an engineer. He has a PhD. He's been in the United States for the past 30 years. So, talking about the aspect of intent versus impact, yeah, the person asking the question or simply complimenting my dad was a harmless intent, but the impact that he made towards my dad was kind of disrespectful in some ways because it kind of belittled his education and his experience in the United States. Just because he maybe moved out of a different country and came here 30 years ago doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to speak English well.
All right, so we are going to do a little skit for y'all. I know it's going to be cheesy, but y'all have been having a lot thrown at you. So if you're asleep, wake up. This is an important one. Yeah, are we awake? All right, awesome. So we're going to do a quick little skit for y'all, and then just to help you understand what microaggressions are, okay? So here we go. Hey, quick question. Are your parents arranging your marriage, or are you going to date here?
Hey, Timmy, where are you from?
Nigeria?
Oh my God, your English is so good. You speak so well.
So, how many drive-in tickets do you guys have?
All right, so in real life, it'd be a little more awkward than this. You might sit there and you might be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that or she just said that. So we're going to show you ways that you can ask the same questions. You're more than welcome to ask the same questions, and we would really like you guys to ask the questions. We want to open the dialogue. So here's one way you could ask it. Hey, do you mind if I ask you about like your culture and how they do marriage and like dating?
Timmy, would you mind if we talk about like what languages are spoken in Nigeria?
Hey, can I get a ride home?
Okay, there's some science at you. You ready for it? Anybody know what the backfire effect is? No? Awesome. I'm going to tell you. Okay, so it is really a psychological nuance in our brains. It's something literally, the slide that you see before you is, you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. So I can tell you a random thing, and your brain would really tell you, well, I don't necessarily believe that. I know this, and I believe this, so I'm going to say that. Really kind of what it means is that we have these beliefs that we've been, given by our families, really experienced in our lives. Maybe we've had something really traumatic happen, and that's built up one of these beliefs. Maybe it's something that you really learned very recently, but you're like, gosh, you know what? I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to make it something that I'm really proud of and that I'm really going to talk about a lot. So one of the things that science has done for us, all these very smart people study psychology and sociology and how we interact with each other. There are a bunch of scientists that have done studies on how these core beliefs and how these facts, and sometimes opinions, really are strengthened, even if somebody comes at us with the truth. Maybe it's counter to what we believe, it's counter to what we've been taught, what we've experienced. And all of this, actually, I did not learn this in school. I learned this on the internet. Can you believe that? Has anybody gone to the blog or the website, the Oatmeal? Okay, so if you haven't, please do. It mostly is about how cats can kill you, or they're like waiting to kill you. So those of you that have cats, you are probably like, yeah, because they're evil, or that you like cats and you don't think that. But anyway, one of the cartoons that is on there is about the backfire effect, and it's a little long, so we're not going to show it to you. But it's something that I encourage you to go to if you have some free time this week, which you probably won't because you're in all these things. But I encourage you to go to it because you're going to get you're going to get a taste of it, but it's a really great cartoon that tells you a little bit more about why our brains are kind of conditioned this way. Okay, so this is really how it works. So all of those experiences and those values and beliefs that we've been taught, that we've experienced, that really kind of make us who we are, build this house, right? Hatred of cilantro, you either like it or you don't. I like it. It's good in guacamole. Some people think it tastes like soap. Just really kind of the beliefs of your family, right? That's one of the things that are core to who we are. So imagine if I told you that one of my beliefs and one of my core, I don't know if it's a value or more of a fear, is my fear of clowns, okay? So it is inherent of who I am. People have told me many, many, many times, well, clowns are nice. They make balloon animals for children. And I will say, no, they are evil. They're going to drag me into a sewer, and they are going to kill me, right? But like, literally, that's what I think. Anytime that somebody says, why are you so scared of clowns? Mostly my children. They think it's hilarious, and they, prompt me, hey, Mom, did you see that clown? So that's one of my core beliefs, right? So imagine if somebody, my best friend standing behind me right here, were to become a clown, right? And she came and said, hey, I went to Clown College, and I'm so excited about starting this new chapter. My house would fall apart, right? I would instantly be frightened. That emotional reaction would come up. I'd probably slowly back away from her. I might run. But really that thought of who I am as a person, what our friendship means to me, it would slowly crumble my house, right? So my brain would protect me. And I would say, nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna acknowledge Becky. Not gonna acknowledge that she wants to be a clown. It would really destroy probably our friendship forever. But really, it would be very hard for me to get past that. And of course, I'm making light of this. There's a lot of beliefs and core values that we have at heart that maybe we know have a different spin, but we're going to protect ourselves, right? That's literally what our brain does. Okay, so knowing that you are going to meet somebody, knowing that you are going to be challenged in the classroom, and maybe your core beliefs will be challenged. Don't let your house crumble, okay? One of the easy ways that we can do it is really kind of be cognizant that not everything that we believe and not everything that we've built, not everything that we experienced is fact. That's really hard to say out loud. I know that clowns aren't evil. I know they're not going to kill me. I know this. I'm really old. I should know that they're not scary, right? So my emotional reaction to Becky becoming a clown, I would say, oh, that's a nice life choice, right? Great, I'm so happy for you. I will never come and see you perform. I might be frightened if you have makeup on and a red nose. That would scare me. But my emotional reaction is not going to be instantly breaking up the friendship and running away from her. The other piece of it is be open to somebody else's point of view. Becky talked about it earlier. You're gonna have different experiences probably than your roommate, than your classmates, than your RSP peers. You're gonna have different experiences. We do not have the same lives. They may have a different point of view that is actually the exact opposite of who you are and how you believe yourself to be in this world. But be open to it. You don't have to get in arguments. You don't have to have an emotional reaction. We're going to give you some obstacles and tips and stories. Becky's going to start us off, and then the students are going to continue.
First, I'm going to write down a note. I have this great idea of a new major that Creighton can offer. Clowns. Got it. Okay. You can laugh at that. That was not too funny. What was really going to be funny, but it fell through, was I tried so hard to find a red nose, and I was going to stand back there and have her look at me and have this big red nose on. Would have been funny. Try to just run off the stage. But, so that's going to be a very scientific explanation of why people sometimes don't engage in conversation. We've been doing some research in our own office, not scientific, because I'm a social worker and a counselor, but we've talked to students about why are people not having conversation about our differences and what's going on in our world. And so these are just kind of some themes that came through that students have shared with us over the years. Number one, we want to avoid controversy. We're very nice here on campus, and you can still be very nice and still avoid controversy, but we can engage in civil discourse. We can have different opinions and we can start to learn from each other. So, but that's one obstacle. Another obstacle that came up is sometimes we don't know how to ask the question. And you saw a skit that talked about that. How do we phrase what we want to know? And sometimes it's just slowing and asking the question the right way. But sometimes we don't engage in conversation because we don't want to offend anybody. Which leads to number 3. We don't want to offend, we want to make sure we're politically correct. Asking questions is not politically incorrect. It's a matter of how do we ask the question the right way. Number 4 obstacle that came up was sometimes we're just afraid of feeling dumb. And none of us are an expert on every single culture. I'm the director of the Intercultural Center, and I don't stand here before you as an expert either. And no one's going to make you feel dumb at Creighton, because we're the brightest of the brightest here, right? Yes, I'm the brightest from my school. Raise your hand. Nobody knows anything different. This is your time to brag. Yes, I was the brightest kid in my school, and I am here, and I have so much to contribute. So nothing that you have to say or ask is dumb. I don't know what number I'm on, because there's where I'm at. The next one is afraid of rejection. Sometimes we're afraid if we ask or we have a different opinion that we're going to be ostracized and we're going to be out on the margin. And you've already heard from our students, we don't do that here. The next one, sometimes we think we already know all the answers. I'm here to tell you, I'm sorry, I'm a parent of 4 teenagers. You do not have all the answers. Your parents do. Just kidding, they don't either. But you have been raised in a very, very culturally competent generation, much more than mine, because I'm a couple years older than you. But you don't have it all figured out, because the world is changing every single day. And here's the tip: you don't have to have it all figured out. So you don't already know it all, so you're going to learn a little bit more. And the last thing that students have talked to us about is sometimes people just don't want to talk about it. People don't want to engage in that conversation. There's a rumor out there that Creighton has a Creighton bubble. Have you heard about it? No, because you've only been here for a couple days. Yes, some of you have heard about it. So what that Creighton bubble is sometimes we say that if it's not happening here, it doesn't really affect us. You are all called to be that change. Pop that bubble, expand the bubble, whatever works for you. It matters. If it's not happening here, it could be happening here, and it does matter to us as Creighton students, faculty, staff. All right? So students got some tips for you. Okay, that's good. Okay, so how many people have a Twitter? Cool, me too. I'm really funny. But also, I'm really unhealthily obsessed with tweeting my thoughts. And so one thing on here is get out of your comfort zone. I am the type of person, I'm very guilty of I will see someone with a different ideology, or I encounter something that I don't necessarily agree with, and I'll write a tweet about it and I'll send it, and that is not smart. My biggest challenge for you and my biggest challenge for myself is get out of your comfort zone. Go have that awkward conversation. Go approach somebody, because at the end you're either 2 individuals or you're just people with very valid opinions. They just might be different. So get out of your comfort zone, go and try and start that conversation.
Going off of that, another important one is to learn from your mistakes. I know you're going to be meeting a lot of people from different cultural backgrounds, and you're going to be interested in where they're coming from, what they do, what kinds of traditions that they have. I know I've been in that place where I've asked kind of dumb questions and I've caught myself, but just make sure to tell them that you're curious about learning about them, learning about their culture, where they come from. So don't be afraid to ask those questions and be interested in where they're from.
Another thing to kind of grow as an individual is to actively listen. And to actively listen is, I believe, to be willing to be changed, to learn from other people, their perspectives, going deeper than just their surface level characteristics or their surface level ideas, going deeper than that, knowing why they think that way, their reasons, their explanations behind it. And if we're able to do that, then we're able to have meaningful dialogue and hopefully create some change.
Another tip says be prepared to answer yourself. And this doesn't mean answer your own questions, but it means if you're willing to ask questions, also be willing to answer questions yourself. So I've been a tour guide here at Creighton since my freshman year, and I'm usually answering questions from families. Usually when I say I'm an international student, they're like, then they have a lot of questions. And initially when I started off, I was very nervous and shy about answering questions, but you want people to know about you, put yourself out there, because no one knows everything, and you don't want to leave someone in ignorance, so you should just be prepared to answer questions yourself. And although sometimes it's hard to ask questions in the way people intend to, people have good intentions with the questions they ask, and they want to learn more about you and get closer to you.
All right, so mine is a little more focused, but bear with me. So if you look at me and you don't already know, I'm a white male. And I am also the community orientation and diversity awareness executive, which is a little odd for a white male, but you know, I'm here and I'm doing it. So Creighton is about 70 to 75% white. All right? So that means that 70 to 75% of you have the 70 to 75% of you are different in ways, but also similar in a very, very fundamental way. And so one on here that I really think is awesome and very important is challenger thinking. These people are up here not because I just thought they were great speakers, they're up here because they're the ones who challenge my thinking. They're the ones that in my place and in my privilege as a white male, I asked them questions because I didn't know. And then they challenged my thinking and they said, what do you think that you can do? So I challenge, this is a challenge for everyone, but specifically for the 70 to 75% of you, is to challenge your thinking and see what you can do to help out and see what you can do to learn more, because the more you expose yourself and the more you experience these situations, the better you will be to make a change in this world.
Aren't they awesome? You clap them. But that's how important you are to them. So, I told you I have teenagers at home, right? I don't have any little ones, but I love to read stories. So I'm going to ask you, because let's be honest, how many of you like to be read to? Please raise your hands. How the rest of the days go? Sweet. So, I'm going to read a story. I found a book in the Creighton bookstore. I own all of them. You won't find it there because I continually buy them when they're there. But feel free to come borrow them. But this story is called Is There Really a Human Race? And so I'm going to read you a story because this is really important to me and it kind of fits in with our theme. And this is what you're going to remember at the end of it. I'm going to ask you next year when you're all up here, did you remember when we read that story? So, we're going to show the pictures in the video up online so that you can see because there's some great stuff. And then I'll read the book to you. Ready? It's a little interactive, so when I point to you, you might have to yell out words. And this is not nap time, so please don't go to sleep as I'm reading it to you.
Is there really a human race?
That's not me reading there. That's the video. All right, so this book is There Really a Human Race? And it is by Jamie Lee Curtis. See? We can make mistakes too. Is there really a human race? Is it going on now all over the place? When did it start? Who said ready, set, go? Did it start on my birthday? I really must know. Do I warm up and stretch? Do I practice and train? Do I get my own coach? Do I get my own lane? Do I race in the snow? Do I race in a twister? Am I racing my friends? Am I racing my sister? If the race is a relay, is Dad on my team? And his dad, you know what I mean. Is the race like a loop or an obstacle course? Am I a jockey or am I a horse? Is there pushing and shoving to get to the lead? If the race is unfair, will I succeed? Do some of us win? Do some of us lose? Or is winning or losing something I choose? Why am I racing? What am I winning? Does all of my running keep the world spinning? If I get off track when I take the wrong turn, do I make my way back from mistakes? Do I learn? Is it a sprint, a dash to the end? Am I aware of the time that I spend? And why do I do it, this zillion-yard dash? If we don't help each other, we're all going to crash. You've heard this book before. So here comes Mama. Sometimes it's better not to go fast. There are beautiful sights to be seen when you're last. Shouldn't it be that you just try your best, and that's more important than beating the rest? Shouldn't it be looking back at the end that you judge your own race by the help that you lend? So take what's inside you and make big, bold choices. And for those who can't speak for themselves, use bold voices. And make friends and love well, bring art to this place, and make the world better for the whole human. What do you think? You're never too old to be rescued. My favorite part of that entire book is where it says to use bold voices. Because there are times when we feel like we can't speak up for ourselves, and there's times when there are others who feel like they can't speak up for themselves. So we're going to spend the next few minutes doing some practice, okay? You're going to get up because it's cold. You got the rain on, you're wet, now you're cold, so now we're going to do some stuff here. So we are going to take turns. We're not going to go up and down. So you do this is by choice. But what we're going to ask you to do is stand up against a stereotype. So what you will do is one at a time, I'll point at you, you're going to say, this is who I am, whatever that identifier is, and this is the difference.